Well, saw this one coming from about 51 miles away. Welcome back to the DELACAST. Do not adjust your television sets. I am Joe Flacco Burner, aka Joe Elite Flacco on Twitter, and I just wanted to hop on here and talk about the news. The news. If you haven't heard, and if you haven't read the title of this video, William & Mary is leaving the CAA for the Patriot League. What? Now this isn't incredibly surprising because their cross-region, cross-town rival in Richmond did the exact same thing earlier this offseason. But it is just interesting to me, given what this means for William & Mary and what this means for the CAA, as well as what it means for the FCS as a whole. So I just wanted to hop on here just completely unscripted, just talking ball out of my ass for a little while about this move for William & Mary as a Delaware alumnus. So let's just jump right into it. Today, William & Mary announced that they will be leaving the CAA and joining the Patriot League. Now, I want to dispel a myth that the Patriot League is non-scholarship. They are technically not non-scholarship. They offer 15 scholarships a year in football. Now that is basically non-scholarship. Let's not get it twisted. This is going to impact the William & Mary football program significantly. William & Mary has fielded competitive teams for about as long as I can remember, as long as I've been alive. And I think that ends. It might still be the case moving forward. I guess time will tell. But them and Richmond effectively moving down to the Patriot League is insane. It's pretty crazy. And you had to think this might have happened given how many teams have left the CAA, the writing that's on the wall for the conference right now in a grim way, and that Richmond left. I just didn't think it would happen. So let's do a little bit of backstory. The roots of the CAA exist from the Yankee Conference. The Yankee Conference consisted of Boston University, UConn, UMass, Maine, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Richmond, Villanova, William & Mary, James Madison, and Northeastern right at its end. Those teams then went on to establish the A-10 football conference. Boston University suspended their program. UConn left for the Big East, and the conference added Hofstra and Towson. Now, in 2007, the A-10 football conference turned into the CAA football conference, and the core teams, UMass, Maine, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Richmond, William & Mary, Delaware, Villanova, and James Madison, have stayed at the core of this conference throughout its evolutions from the Yankee all the way to current day, and that's the core of teams that I'm talking about. Now, in 2010, 2011, UMass left for the MAC in a move that I guess it paid off because we talk about them. They've been in the NCAA football games and Delaware hasn't, so they really do have that over us. But of that core of teams, only 5 of the 12 remain. Hofstra suspended their program. Northeastern suspended their program. James Madison left for the FBS. UMass left for the FBS. And now Richmond and William & Mary are leaving for the Patriot League, which again, might as well be non-scholarship. So who we're left with from this original roster is Maine, who's kind of out of the picture in terms of being competitive recently. New Hampshire, who, is always pretty scrappy good. We have Rhode Island, who's currently on kind of a rise right now. You love to see that for Rhode Island. You have Villanova, who's always been competitive. Is kind of knocking on the door of moving up, but Radnor Township is just not having the construction of building better facilities for the FBS move that I know their AD has wanted to make, even though they are primarily a basketball school. And then you have Towson as well, who's also kind of knocking on the door of moving up, being the only team to really represent the Baltimore media market. Now, around the time that Hofstra and Northeastern suspended their programs, the conference added Old Dominion and Georgia State in what would be short-term gains for the conference because both of these teams were destined for the FBS. Both of them added to the Sun Belt within 2 or 3 seasons of them joining the CAA. Now, after these teams left, you had Albany, Stony Brook, and Elon added to the conference. And these weren't bad moves by the CAA, They extended the reach of the conference into new media markets, that being upstate New York, Long Island, and North Carolina. And all these teams are still in the conference today. They're all relatively competitive on a year-to-year basis. And Elon has beaten Delaware a handful of times in ways that are too embarrassing to revisit. But after James Madison left, and the writing was on the wall for Delaware as well, the conference panicked. They were locked in this media deal with Flow Sports, which was horrible, still is horrible. I hate it. And they backfilled with Hampton, Monmouth, North Carolina A&T, Campbell, and the Bryant Bulldogs of Rhode Island. And I hesitate to call these outright horrible moves, but they weren't awe-inspiring, and they weren't confidence-inspiring in the longevity of the conference, especially when you're losing teams to the FBS and you're trying to maintain your identity as an FCS power conference. It's tough. The move by Richmond earlier this offseason was confusing to me. I was like, why would Richmond leave what is essentially the P3 of the FCS to play in a league that is essentially non-scholarship, to play against teams that are geographically nowhere near them? I don't know. And I still really don't know why they chose to do this when they should have just joined the SoCon or a conference like that is equally competitive to the modern CAA. But instead they joined the Patriot League, which I thought was interesting, sort of confounding. And I was like, I wonder what this means for William and Mary, because now they're left without a dance partner in a way, because you always kind of associated the two teams. And I mean, if you told me that they were going to join the Patriot League as well, at that moment I would be like, yeah, that makes sense that if they're to go anywhere, they're going to go together. But still, it didn't make logical sense to me, the move itself. But when you zoom out and look at it from the sky above, you look at this conference that has Bryant, Campbell, North Carolina A&T, Monmouth, Hampton, Elon, Stony Brook, and Albany. The core of this conference is kind of gone. There are more post-2010 backfill adds to this conference than there are original members. And that should not instill confidence in any conference. I saw people online talking about how the CAA is the Pac-12 of the FCS. And it made me laugh, but there's some truth to that for sure. You think about the Pac-12, how all of their teams, except for Washington State and Oregon State, got up and left, and they went to power conferences because the media deal and the prestige of the conference was taking a hit. And then the Pac-12 backfills with a bunch of G5 teams. No hate to the G5. Love the G5. I'm a G5 truther. But public perception of the Pac-12 since then, even though it's retained its name and its branding, it's not the same. They're not regarded as a power conference, even though I still refer to them as a power conference. And even though they added teams like Boise State, perception of the Pac-12 as a conference just isn't there anymore. And I kind of wonder if that's also going to happen to the CAA, and if it already hasn't been happening. Is this move by William & Mary the nail in the coffin for the conference? Is it the straw that broke the Fighting Camel's back? To try to answer that question, I want to ask you a question. If I were to give you a heap of sand and I asked you to, one by one, take away grains of sand until the heap of sand is no longer a heap, how long do you think that would take you? 1 grain of sand is not a heap. 2 grains of sand is still not a heap. 3, 4, 5 grains of sand. You go on until you have a heap of sand. But at what point does a heap no longer resemble a heap? This is a paradox that is thousands of years old, but it's a question that the CAA has to ask themselves. At what point are we no longer the conference that we were at the date of establishment? At what point are we not a power league anymore? How many teams have to leave until we lose multi-bid status? I don't know. I don't have an answer for you, but I want to hear what you think. This is an open discussion. Who leaves next and to where? And who does the conference add next? I think that's a more interesting question. I think the next couple of years of the CAA are going to dictate the direction that the conference goes in. And it might be over for them pretty soon.